Today's video is all about ink blending with the embossed resist technique. The embossing is going to resist the ink, making a gorgeous background. Hi everyone, I'm Mindy Eggen and welcome to my channel. I would love it if you subscribed, liked this video, and shared it with your friends. The products I'm going to use today is the Flower Burst background stamp and the Sending Love and Hugs word die from Simon Says stamp. One of the things I really love about this background is that, for one, it is a peel apart, so you can use the sentiment in the center or leave it off like I'm going to do. Now, another thing you can do with it other than the embossed resist is also use it to color in with your favorite coloring medium. But I'm just going to do the embossed resist and ink blending today. So this is a red rubber stamp, so it's already foam mounted. I removed the foam insert from inside of my Misti stamping tool, and I'm taking a piece of Hammermill Cardstock, and I'm going to place that over my background. I did place a little bit of repositionable tape on the back of that cardstock, so when I flip my Misti, it's going to stick down to the bottom of my Misti. Now, since I'm ink blending, or I'm going to heat emboss, I did prep the cardstock first with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to ink up that background stamp with Versamark ink. Any embossing ink will work here. We want something just nice and sticky that our embossing powder is going to stick to. So I'm going to apply that pressure, and I am going to ink it up one more time. It's really hard sometimes to see this ink on the white cardstock, so I just want to make sure I'm getting a really good coverage. Then I'm going to carefully remove this. I'm being really cautious because I just painted my nails and I did not want to get a red streak of nail polish across my background. So I'm going to carefully remove that cardstock and place this off on the side. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of scratch paper, and this is sterling embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. I'm going to sprinkle it all over the background. Then I'm going to carefully pick it up with my tweezers, kind of shake it a little bit, and then tap off all of that excess. Now, I noticed that I did not place my cardstock very well, so the bottom portion there is empty, which is fine. It gives me a place to hold my cardstock. I'm going to bring in my heat tool and melt that embossing powder. Now I can work on the ink blending. So I really wanted a dramatic background for this, so I'm going to start with Peony ink and a blending brush. I'm going to tap off a lot of that pink and start off kind of right around that inner portion of the flowers and do just a light blending of that pink ink. I'm going to slowly kind of go out towards the edges, but not all of the way out. Then I'm going to bring in a darker color of ink. Now this is Galaxy. So this kind of has a bluish violet tone to it. I'm going to start on the very outer edges. I already had planned to trim this panel down. So I'm going to start off the very edges with that really heavy application of ink. And as I work my way around, then I'm going to start drifting into the pink. Now, when this color meets the pink, it's going to have kind of that slow transition of that dark shade of blue purple to a light purple and then into the pink. So as I get closer to the center, I'm going to go even more light-handed because I don't want to lose the pink. I really want to leave that pink hue in the middle. Now, as I had stated, I wanted something very dramatic, so I'm bringing in black ink just a little bit on those outer edges. That's going to intensify that color. I do have to come in just a little bit because I want to make sure that I will show that when I die cut my panel. I'll take a paper towel and wipe off the excess ink from the embossing that resisted all of that ink. Now I'll bring in the nesting rectangles from Hero Arts. I'm going to line this up, try and get this as centered as possible. Once I have that perfect placement, I'll hold that down with a low tack tape. Then I'll just need to run this through my die cut machine. I'm going to use my Gina K Designs Intri-Cut die cut machine. So I opened up my panels. I placed my cutting mat on the bottom, my panel so that the blade is facing down, and then that top platform. And then I can run that through. So I'm always cutting into that gray cutting mat. I could also have just trimmed this panel down with a paper trimmer, but I really love kind of those finished edges that a die creates. I did go ahead and die cut another panel of white cardstock to that same size. I'm adding tape runner behind my blended panel, and I'm going to layer these together. So it's going to add just a little bit of lift. Now, even though this has tons of shine on it, I still wanted to add a little bit more, I guess, sparkle to it. So I am bringing in the Be Shimmery watercolor ink from Honeybee Stamps. You want to make sure you shake that bottle up really, really well because the shimmer can settle at the bottom of the bottle. So I'm going to put a couple drops off on my glass mat and pick that up with my paintbrush and splatter the background. With this type of watercolor ink, I don't think you can over splatter because it is very subtle and yet very shimmery, so it is great for adding to your backgrounds. Now, once I splattered that onto the background, I'm going to set it off on the side to dry, and I'm going to work on my sentiment while this is drying. The sentiment I picked for today is Sending Love and Hugs, and I'm going to die cut it out from white cardstock, silver cardstock, and then the shadow backer out of Vellum. I think this is an amazing sentiment and is a great staple because you can send this type of card all year round. So I will be die cutting the actual word die 4 times from white cardstock and once from that silver. And what I'll do is layer 2 pieces of white cardstock together. This is going to go behind my vellum. Then I'm going to layer 2 more together separately, and then add the silver on top. So my top layer is going to have 3 altogether, and the bottom layer is going to have 2. I am just using my Connect glue that I have in a fine tip bottle. I find that really helps with these kind of skinny letters. So I'll take my finished piece that's got the silver on top, layer that on top of my vellum, and then I'm going to grab my other 2 layers I adhered together. I'm adding the liquid glue to the front of the letters, and then I'll flip my vellum piece over and add this to the back. So this is going to help pop my sentiment up from the background a little bit. I'll then take an acrylic block or just something really heavy and place it over the top and let that sit for a minute while I clean up my work surface. Now, I know my panel is not completely dry from the shimmer, so I like to place it on top of some paper towel, and then that's easier for me to kind of turn my cardstock without smearing my shimmer. And I added tape runner to the back of that, and I'm going to place it on top of an A2 size side folding card base, just making sure that my margins are even all the way around. And before I push down to secure it, I'm bringing that paper towel back in once again to protect that shimmer because I'm not a patient person, so I know that it's not completely dry just yet. And then I'm adding the liquid glue to the back of my sentiment and adding that to the center of the card. I thought about embellishing it with some gems, but I think with the shimmery splatter that's in that background, I think that is enough. So here is a close-up of all that gorgeous silver and that shimmer and shine from that watercolor ink. I think this turned out really gorgeous, and I love that color combination. The embossed resist technique is such a great staple if you're just kind of in a funk and not feeling very creative. It is a great stepping stone to get started. I will have all of my supplies listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you again real soon.